Hello everyone, I'm Arthur Machado for WSUM, hosting another episode of Owls Lake No Lake, and I'm so excited to be here chatting with Karly from the band Wednesday.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for asking. I feel like as an interviewer, I don't get asked that a lot.
I have a feeling, I get a lot of, I always try to do that when I can, because most people are like, oh, anytime. I think people just want to talk about, actually, I bet a lot of people don't want to talk about how they're doing right now, but some people need the outlet. I think everybody
it's a good offer. And could you introduce yourself and introduce your band, just talk a little bit about your sound?
Yeah. So I'm Karly. We're a band, I'm in Wednesday, a band from Asheville, North Carolina. And we play kind of like, I don't know, loud stuff, loud little ditties with words.
I love that. Loud is a pretty good descriptor.
Yeah.
It feels very cathartic. Just the chaos.
That's definitely just the goal in general, like to experience like just therapeutic anything with the songs is definitely like it's more for me than for anyone else.
And that's a good segue. And just I want to know first thing, like, what does music mean to you? Like, how do you use it in your life?
Well, I think just having a creative outlet at all is really important in my life. Music's my favorite, but there's so much like dark stuff happening all the time that like any way to process, like I'll just process it any way I can. Music is the easiest though, because it's words and sound at the same time. And also you can share it with people, a bunch of people at once. Nothing's more cathartic than like someone being like, I relate to that, or I see you and I like reciprocate that feeling. I look for any kind of way to express or like release pain.
Oh no.
Sometimes, but like if you're overjoyed, sometimes you need a vessel for that too, but mostly pain.
Have you always been a musical person? Like, how did you get started on that?
I've always listened to music. I mean, as a kid, I was definitely listening to music on my iPod, like on the school bus for as long as I can remember or whatever. But I didn't start playing until, I guess, 5 years ago now. I always wanted to, but I just didn't know how to get into it. And then eventually I just found people that kind of let me into that world that had been playing since they were young or whatever. It's hard to have an access point, but once you're in, you're kind of in, and you find people that uplift you. And I mean, I never had a lesson or anything, but just being told you can do it enough is like really motivating. Because if you mess around long enough, like you'll figure out something to do with a guitar, even if you don't like know technical stuff. Like I don't know anything about music theory or whatever, but I don't know. I just like making sounds, and that'll get you there if that's what you want to do. Like instruments are just sound makers. You just kind of get something out of it and use whatever you find.
Before I go to the next question, I am very curious that you mentioned what songs were on your middle school iPod?
Oh my God. Let me think. I would listen to a lot of stuff my sister would show me. So at the time, and I'm talking like 5th grade, it was like Fall Out Boy and Taking Back Sunday. And I think my babysitter's brother, like I think Taking Back Sunday was like kind of a local band. I don't know if this is true, but legend had it that my babysitter's brother's girlfriend dumped him to date the lead singer of Taking Back Sunday. So I was just into that band because I thought that story was like kind of compelling. I was like, I'm kind of related to this guy in
That's
this
such
way.
a complicated relationship.
I know.
Like babysitter.
For me to like be like, they're from my hometown. Like I know them. But like what else was I listening to? Probably Can I say that? Can I curse?
No, yeah, you can swear. This is not going to live radio.
Okay, cool. Probably like Owl City or something. And then it was more like 8th grade when someone showed me like My Bloody Valentine. I listened to a lot of Superchunk around that time. Anything like that kind of more indie scene. That was more like late middle school, early high school.
And that's where it all began.
That's when I was like, okay, this is something I want to do. This is something like, that was more like, that was the moment I was like, this is the only thing I care about from now on. Once I found like that.
Be respectful. My Bloody Valentine, what an amazing band.
Yeah, I remember I started skipping school a lot more once I heard that kind of stuff because I literally just wanted to devote my whole life to listening to music at that time.
Mhm.
And so I had a friend who would just make me these playlists, and I would just go and like sit in a park all day they were on like a cassette. We were like overly nostalgic, probably like inconveniently overly nostalgic, but he would make me cassettes and like it would be like Deer Hunter and stuff like that, Cocteau Twins.
Right there.
And I would just sit and listen. Oh yeah, you got something?
Yeah. Cocteau Twins.
Oh yeah. I didn't even notice. You do got some stuff. What else is back there?
The Cure, New Order, Panic at the Disco, Girl Friday, Chat Doma.
Cool. Nice.
But yeah. I love that you used to listen like actual cassette playlists. That's so vintage.
Yeah. I loved it. I think that's like, I mean, everyone's kind of obsessed with that now. I don't know if people have always been that like hyper nostalgic about everything, but it's kind of a fun way to like, especially when you're young and you hate like being in your body and you hate your life and you hate everything. It's nice to just like be like, I'm going to just like pretend I live before I was born and like listen to music in this way that I wouldn't have. Mm-hmm. And at the time, when you're in 8th grade, it's like perfect. Now I'm like, all right, that's a little much. Although I love cassettes now, but I don't feel like I need to escape into a different, like, I don't feel like I was born into the wrong time or whatever, like I used to when I was young, because like, whatever. But at the time, that's like a fun thing to think about.
I love that like everyone has gone through that phase.
Yeah, it's exciting.
On the topic of nostalgia, like what do you think that nostalgia's role should be in music? And is that something that is reflected on Wednesday? Because of course you guys have like a lot of 90s throwbacks, a lot of like 90s grunge, shoegaze influences. And I do want to know, what do you think nostalgia's purpose is on your tracks?
Yeah, I think we just like to like, I don't think this is like a goal of ours or anything, but we all love music. We're all music lovers. And I think if you listen and love music, you're going to be influenced by what you're listening to. And I guess it ends up paying homage in a way to those older bands, like 90s bands or whatever. But it's not a goal to like be MBV or be Pavement. Like, I think it's just like, we love that music. I'm actually not listening to that stuff as much anymore, but it's a result of like growing up on it. And so it's just part of who you are. And especially, luckily, I'm not good enough at guitar to be like, I'm going to write a My Bloody Valentine song. And so what comes out is what it ends up being. And I think just the fact that we all love music really plays into the fact that we're involving nostalgia in the writing process. But I think we also have a lot of who it's mostly us. And just like doing us, but it definitely plays a role. Like we aren't not influenced by anyone. That would be a freaking lie. So yeah, I think it's not everything, but we like music. So
continue on the topic of influences. Is there like any bands or maybe not even music related, any books or movies that definitely influenced the Wednesday sound that we wouldn't know unless you guys explicitly told us?
I was listening to a lot of Unwound while we were recording. I was really inspired by those records. I learned how to play guitar watching Jessica Lee Mayfield play, who is like, in my opinion, like one of the most underrated, like grungy female fronted or female artists. Because I hadn't heard her and Mitski were the first two guitarists that I could relate to that were playing like loud electric guitar. And it blew my mind when I was like a freshman at college, and I was like, I didn't know that was an option for me. And then like, I like learned every chord I knew from just watching their videos. Kind of still, I haven't learned much since then, but yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone else that would be surprising. I mean, we listen to a lot of country music. I don't think that's surprising though, because I live where we live and what our music sounds like, but maybe like Richard Buckner is a really like, I don't know if it's like surprising, but his lyricism is really abstract, but his music is like nothing like ours. Like his is very acoustic guitar and voice kind of.
I think that's the perfect answer. Because I would not expect that.
Really? Yeah, he's one of my favorites. Yeah.
I like that you mentioned Mitski too, because the second you mentioned it, I immediately drew the parallel in the loudness, which is great.
Yeah, that's just like another artist. I'm not necessarily listening to her as much as I was a few years ago. But the fact that I was listening to her when I was learning how to play, like she'll always be there in my musician brain because like she taught me how to play, essentially.
It's interesting. I like that. It's just the very foundations of Wednesday.
Yeah.
And how did the band got together? Like, what's the Wednesday origin story?
I was at UNCA, which is the college here, and some friends from Greensboro went there with me. I was born in Greensboro, and they were in a band, like a pop punk band. And one of them was a recording major and just needed something to record for like a school project. And so I was like, I've been like writing some songs on GarageBand. Will you like, I was just desperate to start making music. So I was like, I will do anything to like make recordings or have a band, or I was basically.
I feel that.
Yeah, it's really hard to get into it. It felt impossible at the time. I don't even know how I got to where I am now based on how hard it was to like break through that ceiling of just like, anyway. But so he recorded the first Wednesday album just as like a school project. And I like barely knew how to play guitar. I was mostly playing synthesizer. So it's kind of like a synth pop album. But I knew pretty quickly I didn't want to really make that kind of music. It's just the only thing I could do at that point. And then very soon after that, I gradually kind of met. First, Alan started drumming with us. And then who was it next? I guess Zandy started playing the lap steel. And he basically like reinvented the whole instrument for my band. Because I saw him play in a different band. I was like, that needs to be in my band, even though I'm playing rock music. And he's like, okay. And then he just started like killing it on that.
It works so well.
I know.
It's such an interesting sound.
I know. It's like, and it's weird that no one's, I mean, maybe someone should tell me if anyone else has done it, but not that I know of. But I mean, it blows my freaking mind. And then Margot joined with the bass. I like met her at a house show years ago. And then Jake was added to the band like last year. And Daniel, who like kind of formed the band, made those recordings initially, is playing with Prince Daddy for most of the year. If you know them, they're like a upstate New York band. So eventually his schedule just like didn't make sense. So that's when we added Jake, my partner and lead guitarist, to the band, and he's been touring with us for a year.
Jake Lemonade, the one and only.
I guess
that's your name on the Zoom. On my notes here, I just have lap steel ? I do want the full story of that. Like, how did it came about? Like, when did you know that you wanted to have such a unique instrument on your tracks? Because I love it.
Thank you. Well, I bought a lap steel just because I love pedal steel. I just bought a lap steel just because for that first Wednesday record. And I was just messing around on it in those recordings. And I was like, I need someone who like can actually play this instrument to like be in the band because I cannot. And so Zandy started practicing with us. He was playing lap steel in Jake's band at the time. And I saw them play and I was like, this guy can play a lap steel. He needs to like play with my band. And then while we were playing one day, I think he accidentally turned on his distortion pedal. And we were like, wait, stop.
That's it.
Yes. And then ever since then, he's kind of added more like elements to his like technique and just gotten really good and like has a great way of like filling extra space that me or Jake or Margot or whoever can't fill. I mean, he's incredible. It makes me lose my mind. But yeah, it was kind of an accident.
I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. We wouldn't be the same band without it, I don't think. It's crucial.
Congratulations on releasing Twin Plagues on your sophomore record. It's so good. It's one of my albums of the year. And not just mine. Like, you guys were covered on NPR, Pitchfork, Stereo Gum. And I do want to know, like, were you expecting such a warm response from like both the press and your fans?
No.
And how do you feel?
It's honestly really overwhelming because I was trying to describe you to someone and we toured for like a week and then everything shut down. And at the time our fan base was like not that big. We had no idea where we stood. And then all of a sudden this album starts coming out and I guess we had like grown an audience by then. I don't know when that happened, but like, because we hadn't played a show in so long and we didn't know that like people knew who we were even or like cared. And so, yeah, I was like freaking out when everyone was writing about it. honestly, because I was like, I didn't think people gave a shit about us, I was pleasantly surprised. My expectations were very low.
Oh.
But I mean, Orindel, our label, always like is just so good about, I mean, anything that comes out on that label is going to be good. They have really good taste. So I think I knew people always like listen to it because they trusted Owen's taste and what Owen would put out on the label. But I think this is the first time I feel like our songs just reached people, I guess, this time in the right way at the right time. And thank goodness, because I mean, it's really exciting.
And yeah, it's an amazing album, and you guys deserve all the praise you're getting. Legitimately amazing.
I think our next one's better.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And how did it feel getting back playing music live? I saw the little August 2021 video on the YouTube channel, super cute, and I just seem to have such a good time. Like, how has it been being back on the road?
It's good. It's a hard time to figure out the right thing to do, honestly, when it comes to playing shows. I think as long as I felt pretty good at the shows. It's mostly just like, I want to just not have to worry about anything when I'm on tour because it's hard enough. But with everything else, all the other factors, you want to make sure people are feeling safe. So it's so fun, and I'm so glad to be playing, and it's very cathartic, and I feel like I'm sharing moments with the audience and stuff. But it like never leaves my mind that what we're doing is like heavy and has a weight right now with COVID. So yeah, I wish I just didn't have to worry about that, honestly. But otherwise, it's amazing. And I was actually, me and Jake were watching this. I mentioned Superchunk earlier, but we were watching this Superchunk tour documentary that they made right after 9/11.
Oh.
And the parallels of that, like what was happening at that time, are like so similar. It's crazy. Like just them being like, I guess, like, I don't think people are coming to shows as much as they would, but we're going to play anyways because like music is one of the only things that helps you escape in a time like this. So it's like you kind of have like, it's like something that you just got to do. And like, if people want to come, they can come. And if they don't have to. But it's just so crazy to like think that this was something like, I thought this was like unprecedented in like every way. But really, I guess around then would have been like a similar time when people were like scared to go to shows. And that's such a crazy, like,
it's a really interesting parallel.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. People are scared and music is there for them.
Yeah. And I'm scared, but like, I want to do it. It just feels, anytime I've gone to a show and people have been like, oh, thank God. I'm like, okay, this is something we got to do. And I want to do it. But yeah, it's not easy right now. It's definitely not easy right now.
Has there been, like, on a brighter note, has there been any particularly like fun stories or highlights of you guys being back on the road?
Off the top of my head, I mean, we had an amazing Chicago show last time we were there because we hadn't been there in so long, but we've like over the years made a lot of friends there just because our label is based there. And for some reason, a lot of Chicago bands would come through to the venue that me and Zandy used to work at. And so like I knew Ohm from Chicago, from when they played there years and years ago, and they came to the show. And then I met Ella from Squirrel Flower at that show. And then Kurt Oren was there, who plays in Tensi. It was just like, we got to see like everyone at once. It was crazy. And our friend Dan Riggins opened, who we hadn't seen in forever, who's from Philadelphia. I had a friend from New York fly in for that show. It was just like
wow.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where like, yeah, like I was seeing everyone at once and it just felt so good. And they were there because we were playing. There's gotta be some like other crazy.
That's so wholesome. Just I love the response.
Yeah, we have like a horrifying story from like Indianapolis, but I don't know.
Oh no.
I don't know if I should tell that one.
If you want to, you're more than welcome to share. I am intrigued.
I will, because it's like it was a wild show. The night before this Chicago show that I just said, that was a wonderful show. We played in Indianapolis and we drove 8 hours from Asheville to get there. And we had an amazing show at the venue we were playing at that night, like 2 years ago. And so we were so excited. We were like, this is going to be a great show.
All right.
They're being like, everyone's like, from what I've seen and what I've heard, everyone's masking up. Everyone's like being really good. And we roll up after driving all day. And the owner of the venue is standing outside and he's like, okay, so one of our like staff members tested positive. And so no one that was working last night can work your show tonight because we're all going to get tested. And so y'all can play the show if you work door and you lock up at the end of the night. And I was like, well, we have to play because we just drove 8 hours and spent gas money to make an 8-hour drive here. And so we will like be losing a ton of money if we don't play. And the guy ended up testing negative. So it was like, anyway, we found that out days later.
How many of you were there to staff the whole venue?
5.
Oh, no.
And it was just like dark because it was like from the second we got there, it was just like bad mode. Like we rolled up after hours of driving and just like got the worst news we could think of. That just like, and then we were just bummed out that we were playing and we were just like, should we even be doing this? And then the band that was, I don't know. It was just a hard night. And then the next day we filmed our audio tree. And every time I'm going to watch that audio tree, I'm going to be like, our spirits are so broken in this from the previous night. And it's,
the extra lore for everyone that's going to watch the audio tree now.
Yeah. Well, it was just such a, like, it's lingered. That show, like, you know, when you just have a bad day and or a bad experience and it lingers for days.
I mean, I can imagine just the exhaustion of like driving 8 hours and then having that whole ordeal happen to you.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was not super fun. It was like our first, we played shows out of town, but it was the first show on that tour. So we were just like spirit broken, heartbroken, everything broken. Yeah.
At least the Chicago show happened to balance it out.
Yeah, and it was amazing. So yeah, no complaints. And also those stories are like so good to have, the bad ones. Like once you're like, when I'm a year away from that show, I will be like laughing my ass off anytime I tell that story. But right now I still kind of feel it because it was not that long ago.
And one last question about live performances, which is out of everywhere, not necessarily a music venue, literally anywhere. What would like the dream Wednesday venue be? Like what location do you think matches the most with the Wednesday aesthetic?
Oh man. Well, my dream tour is to Japan. I don't know any venues in Japan, but that's like my dream tour. In America, I really want to play the Pilot Light in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've never been there. It's right there. Like we get there so easily. It is right there. But I just have heard so many good things and I've heard it feels good in there. And probably the most though, it would be that venue that me and Zandy worked at that closed during COVID. That was like our home. If we could play a show there again somehow in some weird universe, I would do anything to play there again, but it's closed.
What are they becoming now? Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure. Some things moved in over there. It's like an artist collective. I hope they have shows. I don't know if they're gonna.
They should bring you in. Regardless of what the business is, just bring you guys in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pound at the door and like harass them until they let me play a show.
Play the cubicles. Yes. Everyone wearing suits. You guys just there.
That would be a sight.
Just talking about your music a little bit right now and Twin Flags, and just out of all the tracks in that record, which one do you think speaks the most to you as a person right now?
Probably Burn Down Dairy Queen. That one's just like overall a self-portrait, I think. I just really identify with like abandoned structures around here. I think I'll just always identify with that song. And it's just kind of like overall about being frustrated and sad in life. The last like couple of lines, I don't remember what are the last couple? Yeah, I don't know if it's the very last lines, but one of the lines is car stuck in ice at a dead end at night. And that is this one time we were in Chicago one time we were touring, and we got the car like really stuck in this horrible icy road. And I just remembered getting like so pissed off so quick and being like, fuck this, just fuck everything about this. And I feel like those are like moments in life I'm just so humbled by touring and just like really, there are moments like that. I'm glad I admit to like get frustrated. It's just like really cathartic to admit that I can get angry and annoyed at life sometimes in that song.
If anything, it's always good inspiration for new songs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly.
Can't wait to hear the song inspired by the Indianapolis ordeal.
Oh, geez, yeah, give me the strength to write lyrics with a clear head on that one.
And yeah, I really want to compliment your songwriting because it's exactly what you mentioned. It's very cathartic and it feels very, very real. I feel like not a lot of artists can pull it off as well as you guys do. And it's good to hear more about just the backstory of everything. And I do want to ask about my favorite track of the album, which is Handsome Man. I love that song. It has been one of my most streamed songs over the past couple of months. And what's the story behind it? Could you tell a little more?
Yeah, so I don't remember writing it exactly because I usually like black out when I write a song. But and just because like my brain goes into a mode where like, and to be clear, I am sober when I write, but I go into this zone, which like I don't know where I go, but that's usually where I go when I write something that's worth a shit. But let me think. I must have started, I bet it was one of those songs I just wrote like a stream of consciousness kind of journal entry and like made a song out of it. And then I'm trying to think of any references I make in that song. I kind of like very quickly approach a traumatic experience of mine in that song, and then very quickly kind of recoil from talking about it and go into more absurdity and stuff. I think that's a habit I have of like scratching the surface of something that really hurts and then like retreating back into something easier to talk about. So I think that's what that song kind of is. Like it's ultimately about like the worst thing that's could have happened to me, but the fact that I can, because I need to write about it, but I need to find it in ways that like don't extort my experiences or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, and I also like don't feel comfortable sharing all that stuff too like explicitly. So I think just like inching towards it and then going backwards and writing I think that's probably like a really Richard Brodigan especially inspired song line wise. I bet I was just trying to like emulate his writing because I was reading him a lot at that time. And then I think there's like a Red House Painters reference in there, the Tokyo line. I like referencing stuff a lot. There's probably a good bit of that in that song.
A lot of good trivia too, right now.
Yeah. Yeah, plenty of trivia. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I can't even think of the lyrics off the top of my head. And then Handsome Man is just Jake Lemonade. That is
Jake
it.
Lemonade. Oh. I have just three more little questions. First one is, what's your favorite aspect of the actual like music scene?
My favorite aspect
of just the North Carolina music scene overall.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of great bands coming out of there, and you guys are one of them. I do want to know more about how it is being from there, and just that's it.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, and this is why I get so bummed out about that venue closing. A lot of it centered around the Mothlight, which was that venue that was in Nashville that me and Zandy worked at. Like they would let younger bands like Wednesday open for touring acts that like I would have never thought we were going to open for. Like I remember we opened for Speedy Ortiz at the Mothlight. That show opened like a world for us that we were like, I didn't know we would like not choke in that situation kind of thing. So it was really like there's a lot of really good smaller venues that are really supportive and like throw good shows and like pay the bands. I think that's crucial to like creating a good scene, like telling like some high school band that like you're worth opening for this bigger band that you love or whatever. Because if a scene isn't going to be nurturing, nothing's going to come out of it. So like I think Asheville's good at like nurturing the younger bands who like don't think they're worth a shit into thinking they're worth a shit. That's definitely what happened with us because like I didn't know what I was doing, but the fact that someone was like, I like your music and like you should play this show, and I was like, okay. And yeah, of course there's a lot of like house parties and stuff that's really fun to play in town. I feel like we did a lot of that at first. And yeah, all the bands are pretty supportive of each other too. And like a lot of the recordings are being made by like our peers, like my neighbor, Colin, recorded our first album. And so just having like a cheap, accessible, friendly way to get recordings made was crucial. Yeah, I think just accessibility. Everything is very
like DIY.
Yeah, everything kind of is that vibe right now. I don't think if it was that accessible, there would be so many good bands coming out of Asheville right now. But if you have a set together, you could play a show a number of places here. So I think that's one of the most important things happening here.
How lovely.
Yeah.
You mentioned the third album in the way, and just what's next for Wednesday? Are there any areas that you still want to experiment in? Any musical influences that you want to incorporate? Like, without giving too much detail, what can you tell us about the future of Wednesday?
Yeah, well, the next album is written. We'll be recording in the next whatever soon.
Exciting.
Yeah. I would say that it's more influenced by songwriters that I consider more, or at least the lyrics. The instrumentation we haven't like fleshed out all the way, but the lyrics are very influenced more by like songwriters who are more like storytellers, like Lucinda Williams or Tom T. Hall. They're more like, yeah, I still talk about my past a lot, but I also try to like go into like lives I haven't experienced. I try to like, and just because I think it's a good way to talk about
poetic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I think a lot of Southern writers tend to like go outside of themselves because the place we live is so special that you could tell, like, you could imagine anyone's story here and it would be something worth saying. If you look at the little details. So I tried to do a little bit more with that. And then, yeah, we're going to figure out how it's going to sound pretty soon with the whole band. I have my parts already, and we're just going to like go in the basement of Zandy's house and like write all the songs together and then record it.
I'm so excited. All of the storytelling by you. Just the lyrics are always amazing, and that just makes me so excited for the future of the band.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the most important part to me. I think I'm excited the band kills it. Like, that's more all of us together, but the words are really, that's kind of just me, and it's like my favorite and most fun part, and I put a lot of work into that part, the writing the words.
Very exciting. And one question that I ask everyone that I interview is, so I had WSUM a show called That's So Cringe, which was focused on like cringy guilty pleasure music, and I do want to know, what is your musical guilty pleasure? What is a song that you're kind of embarrassed of saying that you admit, but like you sing it in the shower?
Yeah. Okay. I have a really good one for this actually, because me and Margot were in the van on tour, and that new Justin Bieber song that's like na 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 na. It's just like it's basically like a techno song almost with Justin Bieber vocals. We're obsessed with it. I love that song. Like, I heard it on the radio.
That's a great answer. Justin Bieber, just overall, I love that.
Yeah, and I don't know much of his other music actually, but that song, it came out really recently, but I've been fucking listening to it constantly, and it's like so weird because like I had no basis for like being a fan or anything, but it's a good song.
Yeah, I love the answer. And is there anything else that you want to say, Karly? Any special messages for your fans?
I guess just thanks for listening and caring to listen. I mean, we get so much music shot our way right now. So the fact that anyone's listening to our album more than once, the fact that people are listening to our album more than once is insane to me. So thank you for that. Oh. And thank you for all your thoughtful questions and for listening and having me. Of course.
Thank you so much for coming again. I'm such a huge fan of Wednesday, and it means a lot that you agreed for this interview. Yeah, I'm really excited for the future of the band. And until then, I'll keep telling all my friends to stream your songs.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.